Intro for this example essay. And this sentence here is the thesis statement. It says, I will outline the perceived drawbacks and benefits of foreign education and explain why I feel it has far more significant advantages. So in this essay, the writer is answering a question that asks them to look at the advantages and disadvantages and pick a side. Clearly, the writer believes it has more advantages. So let's now take a detailed look at the student's first body paragraph. The topic sentence is great. The drawback of it being very expensive cannot be overlooked. Alright, so this first sentence is saying that being expensive is a problem. Then, the writer extends the idea very well. It says the majority of foreign universities have not only high course fees, but are also expensive accommodation and other amenities, which together leads to soaring high-priced education. So the writer has shown the problem of the cost. Then they give an example. It says, for example, a business administration course at London University would cost 20 times the same course at Islamabad University in Pakistan. Therefore, the hefty cost of the course in foreign countries is the major drawback of education there. So I'm going to replace this final sentence with the new one. It says, the greater cost, the more financial stress is placed on the student and possibly even the family. If we see that the first part of my new sentence, the greater cost, that echoes back to the first sentence, the drawback of it being very expensive cannot be overlooked. In a way, I've repeated or echoed the idea of the first sentence. And then I make the final point. It will create more financial stress on the student and the family. Here I haven't just repeated the idea, but I've made the final point. This will put financial stress on the family. You'll even see, if I look at the original sentence, a major drawback of education, hefty cost. The writer is really just repeating the same similar words and the similar ideas from what was already written in this essay. With the new sentence, there's a wider range of vocabulary and wider range of ideas. Here it is. It starts with this sentence. Despite this, however, the opportunity for growth is too great to pass up. With that first sentence, the position of the paragraph is very clear. Opportunity is good. But what about the next sentence? Students abroad accelerate the pace at which the individual grows as it pushes them out of their comfort zone. Great. The next sentence is an example. For example, students have to maintain a striking balance between work, education, and social life, which helps them adapt to different circumstances of their life faster as compared to their fellow students back home. Students unleash their hidden talents when they are subjected to unknown situations and obstacles. This should help them overcome any financial obstacle they face as a result of the cost incurred. And then we have the final sentence, which says, clearly students experience more growth when they study overseas. Again, nothing wrong here with this, but let's take a look at another sentence which is going to add a little bit more range in grammatical structures and perhaps conclude the idea a little bit more clearly instead of just repeating the main idea. So here, I've got it written, the more students grow, the better equipped they will be to handle adversity. Again, I've echoed the idea that growth is important. It's echoing the first sentence of this paragraph without repeating it. And finally, I've summarized the rest of the paragraph by explaining how it's handling adversity. Sentence. The more we practice, the easier it gets. So we have the more plus subject-verb, we practice. Then we have a comma. Then the next part, the easier it gets. You have the comparative adjective easier, and then the subject-verb, it gets. The use is quite straightforward, but to get it accurate is going to require practice. Here's another example. The older we get, the easier it becomes to incorporate new information. In this case, we've turned it around. We've started with the older we get, comparative adjective, and the subject verb, and then comparative adjective, the easier it becomes. More governments invest in education now, the greater the rewards they will reap in the future. The more we invest in space travel, the greater potential for technological advances there will be. The greater cost, the greater financial stress is to the student or the family. The harder the task is, the more one can learn from it. The less governments invest in education, the harder it will be to compete economically. The less time parents are able to spend with their children, the more rebellious the children will be. The more we encourage children to be brave, the less fear they will experience as they get older. Remember, we don't say the more hard, we say the harder. We also don't say things like the more heavier, the more easier. We just say the heavier. Free to pause this and read it if you want. But let's take a look at the final sentence in these paragraphs. This first body paragraph about punishment ends with, the longer we rely on these kinds of punishment, the longer children will continue their delinquent behaviour. In the second body paragraph, it says, the more carefully we consider how we discipline children, the brighter the futures they will have. As with all of the parts of the IELTS test, this is something you need to practice. Be sure to download the free grammar PDF by clicking the link in the description. Thanks for